What's up? It's your girl Choc Babe, 215 Real Exposure, the Real Exposure Show, and I'm here with one of my favorite scholars, Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson, I came in contact with you a couple years back when I was watching Hidden Colors. I've been following you ever since. You're one of my favorite. I love to watch your interviews. I love to watch your live. You're very entertaining. And one of the best things that I like that you're fearless. And I see that a lot of our people, we feel as though if we stand for something, we're going to get killed, or like they much rather be like, oh, you better watch what you say. And as far as you, like you have no fear, and that was one thing that I picked up on. And I want to talk about fear and the fear that's indoctrinated in our people, and why do they feel as though they can't stand for something, or because they will be like murdered, assassinated. So could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. Well, first, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. When you talk about fear from a psychological perspective, I think that fear is a very powerful and potent political weapon.
Okay.
Fear has been used against Black people ever since we came to this country to control our actions and our behavior.
Okay.
So most people think it's ignorance.
Right.
No, ignorance is a part of it. But the biggest way they control us is through the fear.
Right.
Right now, you have the coronavirus, which I believe is a legitimate virus, but I also think that it's being exaggerated to some extent.
Right.
To inculcate the people with fear. I believe so that people will stop fighting against the vaccination movement. And if they can scare enough Americans and African Americans into thinking that not being immunized will lead to some very serious health outcomes, then we will stop fighting against vaccinations and just let them start injecting us with anything that they want to.
Right.
Let's look at the Black community. They exaggerate the fears in the community so that we will beg for more police. So even though you have a police genocide crisis, at the same time, they want the Black community to get so fearful of our own young men and women that we actually beg for more police control. Research shows that the more fearful people become, the more willing they are to give up their civil rights, their constitutional rights, and their human rights to be protected.
Okay.
Fear allows you to take freedoms from people that they otherwise would not normally give away.
So let's talk about your upbringing. And did you grow up with your parents in the same household?
I grew up.
I know you're from North Philadelphia.
Yes.
I'm from North Philly, and North Philly isn't the suburbs. So
Right. Yes, we grew up poor. 8th and Susquehanna, then we moved to 16th and Susquehanna. My parents got married. I spent about 2 years in North Carolina while my father was in the military. They got divorced. We moved back to North Philadelphia, 15th Street. I went to Meade Elementary School. That's where I finished up elementary school, and that's where I began my career in Black consciousness. At Meade Elementary, 18th and Oxford, Mrs. Green, who I coincidentally ran into a couple years ago at a speaking engagement, we had Black history class in 4th and 5th grade.
Right.
So I'm 9 and 10 years old, just about. And I don't know what it was, but I found my calling, and I was the one student in the whole class who just loved Black history.
Okay.
And then there was a Black history oratorical contest. So I entered the oratorical contest, and I won first place both years. When I came back for 6th grade, there was no Black history class, and I was hurt. I didn't understand what curriculum was back then, but then I learned that this was not a required course under the School District of Philadelphia's curriculum. This was something the school decided to do.
Okay.
And luckily for me, I'm living proof that knowing who you are at a young age makes a big difference. I am proof that teaching children Black history is relevant.
Okay.
And I think for me, it was a part of my destiny because I never looked back. I've been into Black consciousness since 9 years old, 4th grade, Meade Elementary School, and I've never stopped.
So that's something that you tapped into when you was in elementary. So what about growing up in your household? Was that enforced, or were
not
your
really.
parents conscious, or?
Not really.
Okay.
They had some consciousness, but I didn't grow up like the way Malcolm X would have
Okay.
grown up with his father being the leader of one of Marcus Garvey's UNIA divisions.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't have grew up like Tupac Shakur, whose mother, Afeni, rest in peace to both of them, was leader of the New York City Black Panther Party. I didn't have that direct, strong, Black conscious upbringing. We were traditional Sunni Orthodox Muslims, as you know.
Okay, I was about to
Philadelphia
ask that.
has more Sunni Orthodox African Americans than
Right.
any city in the country. And that was my upbringing. It was about making your salat 5 times a day, learning your Arabic, you know, going to Juma, fasting during Ramadan.
Right.
The Black consciousness really didn't figure into that.
Okay, so when you tapped into it, and as your parents being the overseers of you, how was that with them?
They never really, they didn't have an issue with my Black consciousness.
Okay.
Because in high
Because,
school,
you know, religion,
Yeah.
you know, in a household.
yeah, especially the way Islam is practiced in
Exactly.
places like Philadelphia, where there's almost no attention paid
Right.
to one's ethnic cultural contribution, which is an issue I have. You know, I take issue with the fact that the way Islam is practiced in this city amongst the Orthodox African American Muslims, where we can learn about Arab history and learn about Arab culture and eat Arab food and dress like the Arab and learn his language, but we don't learn who we are. You know, that's one of the problems that I had with it. But
Okay.
I mean, beautiful religion. I don't take no issue with it. I can go into any mosque and still make salat.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a problem. But politically, for who I am and why I'm in this world, I had to move away a little bit to walk my path, which is a path of a Malcolm X, more so, more or less, more of a Marcus Garvey. Because
Are
I
we
am
talking
a
about
Garvey guy.
are we talking about a child that was in elementary school? So I know your parents had to say like, what are you doing?
Not really. I don't think they realized how much I loved it.
Okay.
I don't think they realized how much I loved it, because for middle school, I went to Bieber in Winfield, 59th and Malvern, and there was really no Black history class there.
Okay.
So it just kind of went underground for a little bit.
Right.
And then for high school, I went to the Scotland School for Veterans Children in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, which was a residential school for the children of veterans, which my father was. And there, it kind of woke up again, because some of the other brothers at the school, and the school was predominantly Black, but most of the teachers were white.
Okay.
And many of those brothers, they also had a burgeoning Black consciousness. So we got into the Malcolm X thing. The Malcolm X movie came out, you know, so it kind of got sparked up again there.
Okay.
And then when I went to college and joined the Black Student Union, that's when I found my calling again. And that's when the Black history, the culturalism became political once I got interested in the Black Student Union and started advocating for the students.
Okay. What type of child were you growing up? Were you a good kid, bad kid?
I was a goofy kid,
Okay.
straight A's and B's,
Okay. But
all
you know,
about books.
education isn't popular in
Right,
our
right.
community. So
Right.
did you get
I was a
teased or
bookworm.
bullied or anything like that?
Probably a little teased, a little picked on, a little bullied. Not nothing major,
Okay.
nothing tragic. I was always one of the taller kids, but I wasn't very athletic.
Okay.
You know, so that was always a joke to be made. But I mean, just a regular. I had a good childhood.
Okay.
You know, I enjoyed it. Nothing I would take back, do over. You know, but for me, I've just always known that this was my path. Like a lot of people will ask me, like, how do you keep going despite the challenges
Yeah.
and the hate? Well, 2 things. Number one, compared to the love I get, the hate is almost invisible.
Okay.
It's just that people focus on the negative.
Yeah.
You know, 99% of our people love me all over the world. I get nothing but love. There's not a day that goes by where I don't get a text, an email, a voicemail, a letter, a card, something that says, thank you for helping me.
Wow.
You know, so compared to the love, the hate is almost invisible, but our people love negativity.
Absolutely.
So they shine such a bright light on the hate, it looks bigger than what it is. So that's number one. But the other thing I want to say is when you know you're born to do a certain job, then nothing that occurs outside of you will divert you. I've always known this was my walk. So.
Right. So what made you say, I wanted to study psychology?
When we were in North Carolina, I was in the 3rd grade. My parents got divorced when I was in the 4th. And it was living in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where I decided I wanted to be a psychologist. That was an 8-year-old decision,
Wow.
an 8 or 9-year-old decision. And I made that decision because I didn't have an older brother. I'm the oldest of 5 boys
Okay.
that my mother has. and I didn't have a big brother. So I said, I want to be the big brother for all the other kids. So they have somebody to talk to, because I didn't have a big brother to talk to. And that's how I got into psychology. Once again, I stuck with it. So my professional career and my political career were chosen in elementary school.
Right. So why do you focus so strongly on education, miseducation, and making sure that you get the message out there?
Because for me, there's 5 major problems that affect Black America. Okay. There's miseducation, mass incarceration, gentrification, police genocide, and access to wealth. Right. And with miseducation, that right there, particularly for Black boys, is the foundation for everything else they do to us as men. Right. Our in and out of the prisons, our unemployment, our drug addiction, our homelessness, most of that grows out of not being properly prepared for life, miseducation. And then the other side of that is economic castration. Once you're miseducated, you're not prepared to be able to find a job and hold one. So I always say that the mother of all violence is miseducation, and the father of all violence is economic castration.
Right, right. So let's talk about the prison and pipeline. I went to disciplinary schools, so they didn't teach us. They basically babysat us, and as long as you didn't get on the teacher nerves, they'll pass you along.
Social promotion.
So I'm a big person that I don't believe what the teachers say. Like, a lot of teachers will say like your child is misbehaving, or because I've seen teachers lie on me. And so I had a mindset with, when I took my children to school, like, I don't believe you. I believe my children. I don't believe you. So let's focus a little bit on that prison to pipeline, because when I was in discipline school, I went to school from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night.
Where did you go?
Village Prep. That was on, it was like privately owned, and it was on Germantown and Allegheny. Okay. And they did not teach us, and that was designed for you to literally AWOL, and they were going to lock you up. But I had ended up being pregnant with my first child, so I just got kicked out of the school just for a whole year or whatever. But
which was illegal.
It was literally set up for you to, not go, and nobody successfully graduated. Everyone got locked up. So I really wanted to focus on that prison, the pipeline. Is that how you say it?
Yes, school to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
I call it the psychoacademic holocaust.
Okay.
And there's 6 stages. Miseducation. They deliberately miseducate Black children on purpose.
Yeah. Because I told you they didn't give us any
You
work
lived
at
it.
all.
You
They
lived it.
just give you a sheet of paper, put something on board, and they'll sit there. And as long as you're not antagonizing the teacher, you're fine.
And I'm glad you said that, especially as a Black female, as a sister, as an African queen, because we always hear it from the male side.
Yeah.
We don't hear it a lot from the female side. And one of the things I've seen evaluating children for 20 years here in Philadelphia is the school to prison pipeline operates for women too, but it's a little bit different, because if you're attractive and quiet, as you just said, you'll be passed on even though you don't know anything. I once evaluated a young lady at John Wanamaker Middle School, which no longer exists. This was during my internship year.
There.
Beautiful young princess, 8th grade. Initial evaluation. She couldn't read or anything in the 8th grade. I asked her, I said, how is it that you have normal intelligence, you've been going to school every day, you don't get in trouble, you can't read? You know what she said? She said, Mr. Johnson, I'm cute and I'm quiet. And she said, because I was cute and quiet, they literally passed me through school each and every year, and that's why I can't read. She knew why. She had been socially promoted. So, and with the boys, it becomes the discipline track. Constant suspension, constant detention. But it's important to understand that the miseducation is deliberate. It's designed to do that, because if you want to disadvantage Black people, you have to disadvantage their education.
Yeah, because once you can't read, then you're subconscious, and it's like...
And the average reading level of a Black inmate in America is 3rd grade. That's the average reading level of an inmate. So they know that if we start special educating and medicating and expelling and suspending these Black children around the 3rd grade, they're going to give up, because we're just making it almost impossible for them to get an education. But then they turn around and blame us for why we dropped out of school, why we can't read. But the system is designed to perpetuate black failure and dysfunctionality, which is a shame because black people have so much money we could open up our own schools for our own children, but we choose not to do that. Number two, special education. This is when they start misclassifying our kids. Reading disabled, math disabled, intellectually disabled, emotionally disturbed, ADHD. And this is when they put the labels to justify why you can't read. See, special education is the justification of miseducation. Special education is the justification of miseducation. And I'm such an advocate against early evaluations of black children. Because when you evaluate a third grader, a fourth grader, you don't really know if this is a learning disability or just a learning challenge or what I call ain't been taught. A lot of our children have never been taught.
They don't teach us in public school. See, I went my schools, but you know, the schools that I went to, they didn't teach me. I literally taught myself.
I probably evaluate. I know you went to Wanamaker.
I went to Wanamaker.
I tested there.
I went to Elverson.
I was the school psychologist at Elverson.
I went to Hartramp.
I never tested at Hartramp.
I went to Franklin, and I graduated.
But Hartramp was my preschool.
That was my own school.
Okay, so 3 of your schools, I was a school psychologist there.
Wow.
So I can vouch for the other side. You lived it as a student.
Yes.
I lived it as a school psychologist.
Yeah. So they didn't really, well, then they probably did in elementary. That's the only place that I really say, like Hartramp, they did teach me, but they was so young. I don't remember none of that information. But after that, I was considered to be a juvenile delinquent because I would always get kicked out and suspended and stuff. So basically, I went to Boone.
Yep, I was the school psychologist.
Cato. So, and then I went to Village Prep. So they kind of just passed me along. I didn't have that traditional 8 to 3 education.
Twilight schools and
So I feel as though that's why I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not locked in with that. I gotta work. That I can't do that. I'm free spirit because I didn't have that indoctrination all the way up until I was what did you graduate, like 16 years old? Yeah.
Well said. And then that next stage becomes the psychiatric medication. This is when the kids get diagnosed with ADHD, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. They prescribe them the Ritalin, the Adderall, the Concerta, the Metadate, the Vyvanse. And these drugs actually work against them being able to learn because the drugs arrest the mind. So you can't learn while you're under the influence of the medication. So the medication perpetuates the miseducation, and then parents don't know that once you put your child on the drug, they can force you to keep them on the drug. And then when you take them off the drug, they call DHS. And now they're taking your children out of your home because you're choosing not to medicate them. Right.
Let's talk about ADHD.
Sure.
A lot of people, they like to use these labels. The doctors, the teachers give them these labels, and they just hold them like holier than thou. My child got ADHD. And so let's speak on what it is, the facts behind it, because everyone wants to be like, oh, my child have ADHD, or I got ADHD. Like, they just speak this stuff in their life.
ADD was invented by the American Psychiatric Association in 1980. No coincidence. Same year the CIA dropped off crack cocaine in the black community. They started drugging up the adults and their children at the same time. But there was a problem, Tosh. No drug can make you pay attention in the classroom. So in 1987, they added an H. In attention deficit disorder became attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There was no hyperactivity in the original name. They added the H in 1987 to justify medication for all diagnosed children. So now, even if you are not hyper, you just don't pay attention, you're still considered ADHD. You see that? I'm not even hyper, I just don't pay attention. But because they put an H, I'm automatically considered hyper too, even though I'm not, to do what? Justify the medication.
So now when they put these children on the medication, what is supposed to be the purpose of the medication?
The medication forces you to calm down,
to get them high.
And to get them high and focus. But what it really does is it comatoses the brain. It puts you in a Frankenstein state. You're so sedated that you're sleeping all day, or you're tired all day, or you're hungry all day, or you're delirious all day. And the side effects of the medication actually work against education because it messes with organ function. It can cause suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts, tic disorder, schizophrenia, balding, growth problems, sexual dysfunction, not to be vulgar, premature ejaculation, infertility. I mean, I don't think black parents really understand that after you give this pill to your son or daughter for 5, 10, 15 years, they'll never be normal again. They'll never function again at all. And the biggest thing they need to understand is that all of the diagnoses are professional opinions.
Yeah, so it's no facts behind
It's no
it.
facts behind it. It's my analysis, my assumption. It is my hypothesis. It is my conclusion. No blood test, no CAT scan, no x-ray, no MRI, no urine sample. There is no objective measure taken to prove that a child has ADHD. It is an opinion and a Wall Street drug money hustle.
And it is a drug that's being given to the child. The same drug that the dad got locked up for
Exactly.
selling.
How can it be a war on drugs? Help me understand this. America incarcerates the largest amount of black people in the world. Largest amount of people in the world. I believe 25% of all prisoners are in America, right? Most of the men are there for what? Nonviolent drug-related offenses. How can you build a mass incarceration system off of black men selling narcotics when you're giving their children narcotics to get an education? Is that not the epitome of a contradiction?
Wow, that's deep. Like, it's not even funny, it's sad.
And nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
I've never seen a show that said, let's discuss how the highest, most incarcerated populating nation is incarcerating black men for selling drugs, but they are at the same time giving birth to a whole new generation of drug addicts by way of the children of those incarcerated males. You went to jail for selling it, but we're going to give it to your son so he can sit still because you're no longer in the home.
Wow. So what's some solutions that we can put into play to help raise the consciousness of our people?
Number one, we have to educate the parents so they know how to advocate effectively for their children. So here in Pennsylvania, I'll be hosting the Black Parent Know Your School Rights Boot Camp in Pittsburgh on June the 6th. So we dedicating this whole year of 2020. I'm calling it the year of the educated black parent. Come out. There's 15 different training sites. You attended one, Long Beach, California, where we go from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. teaching parents everything they need to know to save their children. So we will be in Greensboro, North Carolina, March the 28th, New Haven, Connecticut, April 11th, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, April 18th, Dallas, Texas, May 2nd, Minneapolis, June the 27th, Minneapolis, June the 27th, Indianapolis, August the 15th, Pittsburgh, June 6th, United States Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, October the 10th, Sanford, Florida, September 5th, Chicago, Illinois, September 12th. So your viewers can go to drumarjohnson.com and they can register to go to any one of those trainings. But from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, we're teaching them special ed, mental health, ADHD, parent rights, the 504, autism, vaccinations, change of placement, deafness, blindness, speech and language impairment, conduct disorder, how to write letters, how to keep documentation. We cover about 30 different topics. So when you say solution, the first solution, educate the parents. But you know what the real solution is? The black community needs to open its own schools for its own children. Until we take full responsibility for the education of black children, they will continue to fail because white people have no interest in properly educating black children. And I understand why. I don't accept it and I don't condone why and I don't agree with the why, but I know why. White privilege is based on white power. And in order to guarantee privilege for white people, you have to systematically disadvantage black people. Let me say it again. In order to guarantee privileges for white people, you have to systematically disadvantage black people. If you do not disadvantage black people, you cannot guarantee privileges for white people. And why is that? Because there's no such thing as white supremacy. It is an idea that white people came up with. And because it is not a fact, they have to create systems to destabilize other people's opportunities, to manipulate and sabotage other people's opportunities to give the false appearance that white people are better. You're not better, you just get better opportunities.
Well, let's talk about the white Jesus and how that is very destructive for our people. Elaborate a little bit on that.
I've spoken on every continent except Australia.
Okay.
And guess what? There's 3 constants wherever I go in the world with black people. I don't care if I'm in Jamaica. I don't care if I'm in the Bahamas. I don't care if I'm in London, Birmingham, Amsterdam, Paris, Los Angeles, Houston, South America. Guess what? 3 things. Number 1, single black mothers are raising the boys by themselves. Number 2, mass incarceration of black boys. There's actually more than 3. Number 3, someone else is controlling the black economy. We don't control our own economy. Wherever you go, the Chinese are selling us the food. The European Jews are running the banks. The Arabs are controlling the small markets. Black people don't control their economy nowhere in the world. And the 4th one, everybody's praying to a white Jesus. The white Jesus is a constant, including black Africa. In fact, there's more Jesuses in black Africa probably than anywhere else I've been in the world. You see? And that white Jesus picture, that Jesus in the Last Supper.
What is it doing to our people?
It is subconsciously conditioning you to view all white people from a position of servitude and inferiority, because we all recognize God is superior. We are inferior to the Creator. Well, if God is white, then that means all white people are godly and all black people must be inferior to those gods. So when a black child grows up seeing Jesus portrayed in the flesh of his oppressor, he will automatically grow up to fear the oppressor, to worship the oppressor. And because God is omnipotent, all powerful, white people must be all powerful. You see that? That's why most of us don't believe we can defeat white supremacy, because we've grown up with an image of God that is white. So if God is white and all powerful, white people must also be all powerful. And not only that, maybe God put white people in charge of the world, and that's why they run it. So it becomes fatalistic, it becomes destiny, it becomes predetermination, because you conclude unconsciously, this ain't conscious, this is beneath the surface of conscious thought. Your brain concludes that it's not even worth trying to remove those people, because your brain associates white people with the white Jesus. And since white Jesus is beyond reproach, white people, no matter how poorly they treat us, must also be beyond reproach.
Back to talking about the fear. People be like, well, it is the way it is. We can't do nothing about it anyway.
And that sounds just like what?
And they won't do anything.
That's exactly what we say about God. You can't do anything about the Lord, the universe. This is the way the Lord set it up. You cannot change God's laws. You cannot change God's agenda. And what do? We transpose that divine conversation onto white people. And we say, listen, there's nothing you can do about white power. There's nothing you can do about white control. So you clearly see there's a relationship between the way we think and talk about God and the way we think and talk about white people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we got to raise a generation of black children who've never seen a white Jesus. We're never conditioned to believe white women are more beautiful than a black woman. We have to raise a whole generation of black boys who can walk into a room with a white man and feel no inferiority at all. That's what we must do. And that's why I'm building the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy.
Yeah, so how do we reprogram that subconscious?
Frederick Douglass to whom I'm related by blood, he said, "It is better to raise strong children than to repair broken men." It is better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. And to me, that means that reprogramming is 10 times harder than programming. We have to learn how to get it right the first time.
Okay.
You follow me? We have to learn how to get it right the first time. And the only way we're going to do that is by building our own schools. As long as black children are dependent on white people for their education, black people will always be dependent on white people for their salvation. Let me say it again. Wow. As long as black children are dependent on white people for their education, black people will always be dependent on white people for their salvation.
Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. That's your school.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about it.
The idea came to me while I was serving as vice principal of a charter school here in Philadelphia more than 10 years ago. And it was an epiphany because in working as an assistant principal, I came to understand that I could impact more children as a school administrator than I ever could as a private therapist.
Okay.
40 hours a week is 40 clients, right? Principal of a school, you got 400 kids every single day. If you're trying to impact the next generation, what is more effective? 40 clients a week or 400 children a day? People who are already messed up and you get 40 a week, or children who are still learning and developing and becoming themselves and you got 400 every day. So it was a very smooth transition from being the therapist to being the school principal. And understanding education, psychology, Pan-Africanism, the black predicament, I knew that my calling had to be to prepare the next generation of young black males. So we're going to teach them, in addition to math, science, language, history, civics, those are required subjects. We're going to teach them economic and financial science. They will learn how to write their own business plan. They will learn how to invest in real estate. They will know how to do their own taxes. They will understand multinational investments, all of that. Dietary and nutritional science, how to eat to live.
Yes.
And then we will also give them agricultural and agronomical science, how to grow your own food. And then we will also give them the science of the black man and woman, building a family, relating to a woman, why we must honor, respect, protect, and adore the black queen. Right. They will be taught that as a class. That is a curriculum. Okay. Not just a lesson, curriculum. And then we also have the military and political science where we teach them self-defense with and without weapons. And we will also teach them how white supremacy took over the world. Why is Africa the richest continent materially, but the people are in the poorest condition? Why was Barack Obama made president? Why are black men 10 times as likely to go to jail than anybody else? Why does America incarcerate the largest population in the world? That's political science. It's one thing to know where you come from. It's something totally else it's something totally different to know where you are. Political science teaches us where we are. And then the final curriculum of the 6 is spiritual and astrological. We're going to teach our young men the science of divination, the science of worshiping God as taught by our ancestors before Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, or Abraham was ever born. Okay. We going back, way back. Okay, and because the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy is zoned as a parochial school, I have to have a bona fide spiritual curriculum at the school in order to function.
Nice. So how would a day go? Is it a 8 to 3 or
it'll be a
overnight?
traditional school day.
Okay.
But my final vision is a residential school. Okay. Having attended one myself, I know the benefits of having total control of the child's operational schedule, not just the day, but the evening. And also how it builds bonds and unity. The young men and women I went to school with, we're still close because we lived together. Right. We grew up together. Now, of course, that school was based on patriotism. This school will be based on patriotism as well, but to African people, you understand. So understanding the psychological edge that a child gets growing up in an academy as opposed to just going 8 hours a day. In the final analysis, I want to have a residential school.
Oh, wow. So who inspires you?
All of my inspiration comes from ancestors.
Okay.
Obviously, Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, and believe it or not, Harriet Tubman goes before both of them. Mm-hmm. Most people, right? Many of the fathers of Pan-Africanism, Henry Highland Garnet, Alexander Crummell, John Brown Russwurm, the Pan-Africanists back home in Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Sekou Touré, Amilcar Cabral, Samora Machel, Steve Biko, Robert Sobukwe, Winnie Mandela. I'm still going to put Nelson Mandela in there, the young Nelson. Okay, Walter Rodney from the Caribbean, Eric Williams, Trinidad, the Haitian Revolution. All of my inspiration comes from the ancestors.
Okay, nice. So, all right, how do you deal with your critics? You have a lot of, well, you know, we focus on the negative. Well, not, no, I mean, let me change that verbiage.
They focus
on the negative. So how do you deal with, like, critics? 'Cause, you know, oh, what's up with his school? Why he ain't got it? Why he still need more money? There's a lot of negative talk behind it. So, like, clear that up because, you, like I told you, you're one of my favorites. So when they come for you, I come for them. So
Honestly,
clear it up.
When the hate first began back in 2015, when I started raising money for the school, that's when the jealousy really got out of hand.
Okay.
And it got out of hand because they saw that our community was behind me in donating thousands of dollars to a project. Okay. Many of my deterrents, adversaries, they had also tried to raise money for different projects, and they didn't get it.
Okay.
So the jealousy came from the fact that I was able to get more support from the people financially than any of them.
Okay.
That's what it came from. The mistake I made was I should have shut it down when it first started, and I didn't. I said, listen, I'm going to ignore it, focus on my work, and it'll go away. I was wrong. And as much as I understand post-traumatic slavery disease, I underestimate how much Black people love negativity and love to see successful Black people fail.
Yeah.
That was my mistake. I should have got out in front of it. I should have crushed it. And now it has blossomed 5 years later into a full movement to try to destroy me. Again, the reason why I don't focus on it is because I don't want it to grow any further. Yeah. But also, I really believe in the destiny of my movement. Like, I really believe that this is meant to work. Because when we got them 2 schools in Delaware, we were not supposed to be able to afford them. We don't have 1 school, we got 2 of them.
Nice.
2 of them. So why would God give me these schools only to let me fail? You understand?
Right.
So for me, it's deeper than the hate. You know, and when I look at all of our ancestors, even when I look biblically, the chosen ones always have the toughest path.
Absolutely.
Did not Jesus, whether people believe in him or not, did he not, the alleged Son of God, did he not have a tougher path than any of his disciples? So when you're the chosen one, it doesn't mean it gets easier.
Yeah.
It means it gets more difficult. And I believe I'm one of the chosen ones of this day and time. And so I think we're going to win regardless. And to be honest with you, from a psychological standpoint, jealousy is negative admiration.
Okay.
It's negative admiration. All of those people who speak negatively about me and make the videos, they have just as much confidence as I do that I will succeed. And that's why they go so hard.
Right.
If I was a failure, if I was a hustler, whatever they claim I am, they wouldn't have to do anything. Yeah. The people will see it sooner or later. But because they know that I will succeed, they have to try to destroy the work before it gets started. Because guess what? You can expose wrongdoing, right? But what about when you start sabotaging somebody else's work?
Right.
They're not exposing wrongdoing because there's no wrongdoing, but they are actively sabotaging my work.
Right.
They call and try to get events canceled. They contacted the IRS. They contacted the Attorney General. They contacted everyone they could contact to try to do what? Sabotage the work. If what I'm doing is a fraud, why do you have to sabotage it? It's because you know that it is real work and you don't want to see it come to fruition. But I feel sorry for them. They're just miserable souls. To spend your whole life trying to destroy the destiny of one man is ludicrous.
How do you stay focused and sane when someone deliberately is attacking you and sabotaging you, and you're on the right path, and you have to stay focused as far as you're a role model, you're a leader, people are watching you. So the North Philly want to go pull up and smack a shit fly.
Right.
So like, how do you stay sane in that mind frame? Because you can't go putting a hit out and getting addresses and pulling up on people. You Dr. Umar.
Yeah.
Even though we want to.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm a prisoner of my own reputation, if you would. Certain things you can't do because you'll never open a school if you do.
Exactly.
You just have to discipline yourself. You got to go with it. It does get tough. The character attacks don't matter. The negative publicity don't matter. That doesn't matter to me. But when you start trying to directly sabotage the work, that's when it becomes a problem. And
Yeah, because we've seen you go on the rant and looking for some people. So, you know, as a leader.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't take any of that back. I do think sometimes people need the shit smacked out of them.
I agree.
You know, so I don't take any
agree.
of that back. I don't take any of that back. But at the same time, people have to remember that I rarely, if ever, go there. You know, I normally go there once a year.
Once a year.
I do a purge. I do a haters purge once a year. That's it. And then I get it out your system and get right back on focus. But here's the question the community should ask themselves. Why does he have to even be bothered with that? Why aren't we handling the garbage? Why this man got to help every parent save their child, build a school, go around the country holding a boot camp, care for his mother, you understand, take care of his daughters, take care of himself, and then lead the Pan-African movement. He got about 12 things to do, and then we're going to leave it up to him to have to take out his own garbage. To be honest with you, I believe the community should have already dealt with my haters.
Okay.
They should have pulled up for me. Bruh, he working for the kids. You don't do anything for the kids. The next time you do a video, we breaking legs. You follow what I'm saying? The community should have been shut it down. You know why they didn't? Because we love negativity. Yeah. We love it. And we don't care at what expense it comes.
Right. And you said that could be from PTSD.
Oh, it's more.
Let's talk about that, because a lot of people don't understand it.
Until black people hate racism more than they hate each other, nothing will change. We hate each other more than we hate oppression. We hate each other more than slavery. We hate each other more than homelessness and miseducation. We hate each other more than anything that is put against us. And post-traumatic slavery disease speaks to the trauma of the psychological captivity of the African consciousness. The psychological captivity of the African consciousness. And when you take the consciousness of a people and you abuse it, you traumatize it, and then you condition it to work against its own best interests, when you take the African consciousness out of the chain, it's still going to continue to behave the way it did during slavery, after slavery, because there was never no repair. There was no psychological reparations done to return the Negro to his African consciousness. We need a process that returns the Negro back to his and her African consciousness. Until you do that, we are nothing more than Europeans disguised as Africans.
So how we going to fix this? When you say we're working on the kids, you can't reprogram the
No, we don't give up on the adults.
Okay.
Continue to work with the adults, right? But understand you're only going to get some of them.
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking, when we go into therapy, we're trained to evaluate this person's readiness to change.
Okay.
Many African Americans are not ready to psychologically change. Many of them don't even recognize they have a problem. The black man running around with the white woman, he don't even think that's a problem. The black woman running around with the blonde hair and the green hazel contacts, she don't even know that's a problem. The black people, as soon as they get a master's degree, they move to a white suburb, they don't even know that that's a problem. Right. You follow me? You have to know it's a problem to do something about it. So you're not going to save all the adults. but we can save just about all of the children. And that's why you focus on the babies. You can control them. You can't control grown folks. You got Negroes out here who love white supremacy so much they will kill you before you try to make them kill the cracker that lives within their soul.
Right. Wow.
We need a mass purging of the European consciousness that lives within us. That's what we need. But some of us are so intimately connected with our inner cracker that to kill that inner cracker, we almost feel like it is to kill us. Mm-hmm. We're so intimately connected to white consciousness that to extrapolate the white consciousness from the black mind, many of us believe you would almost have to kill the black mind.
Well, we're in a time of awakening right now. Where do you feel we'll be within the next 5 to 10 years?
Nowhere if we don't work towards it.
Damn.
One of the problems black
Even
people
through this
have,
time?
we believe in this providential destiny, and don't get me wrong. I also believe in providential destiny, but I also understand that nothing will get better unless we make it better.
Right.
God will work with you if you work with yourself.
Right.
The Bible and the Quran both say what? Worship without works is dead.
Right.
God doesn't change the condition of a people until they change it for themselves. So I believe we have a bright future if we're willing to work for it. But if all we want to do is vote and pray, we'll have the same conversation 5 years from now, but we'll be in a worse condition. And the reason we'll be in the worst condition is because black people don't understand that racism will never leave you alone until you no longer exist.
Wow.
That's why you will always see more police killings, more homeless black people, more gentrification, more mass incarceration, because the goal is not to hold you back, my queen. The goal is to eliminate you. And do you know why? Because as an African woman, any man that plants his seed in your soil of any race, I don't care if he's Chinese, Mexican, Arab, Anglo-Saxon, a Jew, because you are the original woman, God's original human being, you will give birth to an African baby. Any woman I lay down with will give birth to an African baby. You and I are a problem for the rest of the world because we are the only two people who can reproduce ourselves in anybody.
Yeah.
They hate you for that.
Absolutely.
They hate me because they say, even though you're unemployed, even though you ain't got no college education, you're a high school dropout, you're a drug addict, you homeless, you can reproduce yourself in any woman in the world.
Yep.
We have a natural biogenetic advantage over all other human families, and because of that, they want us gone. The goal is extermination, not discrimination.
Wow. Yikes. So you say 5 to 10 years, if we don't work on ourselves,
We'll be worse.
worse in a worse
I'm going to go
condition.
one step further. I believe the African American will not survive the 21st century if we don't do something quick. We are almost at a point of no return. We are almost at a point when we have been made a permanent underclass. Look at this virus.
Yeah.
We're totally dependent on the white media, the white government to tell us what's going on and to protect us. Do you realize how naked and defenseless we are? Do you know right now, if they wanted to get rid of us at this moment, they could begin to do that? And I believe they already are, and I believe this is part of it. Look at us. The most honorable Marcus Garvey told us what? Be prepared. Mr. Garvey said, if the black man and woman are not careful, you will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. You will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and you will die from the effects of it. That's us. There was no future unless we make one. And now the white man is playing with all these biological weapons that he put out there into the environment. Black people better get organized, and we better get organized quick. Everybody was scrounging around for what? Food and supplies. And who you buying it from? White people, Chinese, Arabs. Look at us. We're totally dependent on people outside the community for our survival. But yet we waste $2 trillion a year. $2 trillion, my queen. And we got to go get Lysol from the Arabs. 2 trillion. We got to go get drinking water from the European Jews. It doesn't make any sense. All this money, no power, because you've been trained to only worry about your oppressor's best interest, never your own. That's why you always hear black people say, I'm concerned about all Americans, not just the black ones. In other words, what they're really telling you is I'm not interested in how well my people are doing because I don't identify with them. I identify with the man who enslaved me, the U.S. government.
Yikes. You got anything that you want to specifically?
I would just want to say to the people that if they ever need to contact Dr. Umar Johnson, reach out to me on the website, drumarjohnson.com. If you need to schedule a consultation for your child, or if you yourself want to schedule a life coaching session, I can't call it therapy yet till I get my license, okay? But if you want to schedule a life coaching session, you can reach out to me, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com, or 8444 Dr. Umar, 8444 Dr. Umar, or 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. Please, please, please donate to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Get on your Cash App and go to $FDMG School. I repeat, $FDMG School on the Cash App, or you can mail your donations in. Payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634. That's P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware 19809. We hope to have the school done by the end of the summer so we can celebrate 100 years, the centennial of the red, black, and green flag.
Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. It is. We have the building.
Yes, we have it. We just got to get it fixed up.
We just fixing it up.
Any plumbers out there,
Let 'em
HVAC,
know.
sprinkler system, plumber, electrician, HVAC, sprinkler system. Also, anybody who has expertise in renovating basketball gyms, because I got 2 gyms, and I want to get them renovated because we can use them to raise money as well. So I need to get some gyms renovated. Anybody with expertise in that as well.
Well, it was a pleasure in having you on the Real Exposure Show. I told you you're one of my favorites.
Thank you, thank you.
I love how you go in. You're fearless. And I just want you to give them some words of wisdom about fear, because like I said, it's so ingrained. It's like that. I can't do nothing about it. I hear so many people say it. So many people say, the more knowledge you learn, the closer you're getting to your death. And it's like, what?
Right, so they rather stay ignorant to stay safe. And that's why black people love ignorance, because with knowledge comes awareness of the risks, but also comes awareness of your responsibility. If I stay ignorant, I never have to be responsible for change.
Right.
So a lot of black people resist the truth on purpose because you're going to make me responsible for change.
Yeah.
I don't want to do no changing, so I would rather stay ignorant. When people come to therapy and they suffer from an anxiety, snakes or driving over highways, guess what the treatment is? Exposure therapy. I'm going to expose you to snakes so you can lose your fear. Not all at once. I'm going to bring the snakes into the room, but you're going to sit here, right? And then you're going to get anxious, and then we're going to work on you to get calm.
Right.
Once you calm, I'm going to bring the snakes 2 more feet, and we're going to work on it. You see, I'm going to slowly inch till the snake is right here. But the whole time, your mind is habituating to the presence of the snake, and before you know it, you're going to be touching and holding that snake. Now, when we start, you ain't going to, no way I'm going to hold that snake.
Right.
But once I slowly
And that works.
desensitize you. Desensitization is how you eliminate fear. Exposure to it. If you don't face your fear, you will never lose it.
Nice.
If you don't face your fear, you will never lose it.